We'll begin with if there's any public comment on the items on the agenda today. Any comments on the agenda items?
Yes, reserve till the end, because I'm not clear.
Yes, absolutely.
The agenda is covered.
Absolutely. Do we have, I don't believe we have any action items from the executive.
None.
I believe so. Okay. May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from the prior meeting?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. You have in front of you the Chief Financial Officer's report. Items A through E are reports. Are there any questions on the reports? Seeing none, receive and file. Item F is a request for ratification of the expenditures paid and the wires drawn. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on any of the reports? Seeing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Andrew?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Langston?
Yeah.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you, Madam President. In executive session, we discussed litigation matters, including the lawsuits filed against us by Aqua and the City of Chester, and two new right-to-know law matters, as well as some personnel matters. In terms of the litigation, we were in court last week. We had come to a resolution in front of the judge on sort of a standstill agreement. The judge asked us to reduce that to writing. We've been unable to do so. We're going to be before the judge tomorrow morning at 8:30 to try to work out the remaining open issue on the standstill agreement. If we're successful, what that means is that we would proceed to a scheduled hearing on the trust petition that this board filed last March. We would do that first. We would try to do that in the next couple of weeks. We would also suspend action on all appeals, and the city would be allowed to solicit RFPs, but not act on them. So they were the terms that we discussed in court last week, but when they were asked to reduce those to writing, we were unable to resolve all open issues, so the judge said, "Well, come in and see me tomorrow morning, Friday at 8:30, and we'll see if we can work the remaining ones out." So that's in process. Secondly, I'll be in Harrisburg on Tuesday, talking to the PUC about trying to get some assistance in this board's attempt to identify and give some support to our customers that are Chester Water customers, but are receiving income at or below the federal poverty limits. This board has been exploring this issue for several months now. The purpose of the trip to Harrisburg is to see if there's any ability of the PUC to assist us in obtaining information about people that already qualify for other federal and state low-income programs, so that we can simply rely upon the data that they've already collected in offering this benefit to our customers. Many water companies, especially private ones, claim that they have rate structures or rate policies that favor low-income customers, but really they're simply deferred payment plans. We would be talking about something different, but an important threshold consideration that we have to work out is how to determine, if we were to adopt such a plan, who would qualify and who would not. That's the purpose of the Harrisburg trip Tuesday. Third, interestingly, we read a few weeks ago in most of the national media that the governor of Maryland is talking about suing the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for the Commonwealth's alleged failure to clean up the streams that feed into the Chesapeake Bay. Those same streams affect the water quality of the water that the Chester Water Authority customers get. I've asked for permission to contact the officials in Maryland to better understand what they're trying to do and to evaluate whether or not the goals of the lawsuit comport with the goals that we have. I will do that before the February meeting. I know it would be unusual for a Pennsylvania municipal authority to join in with the state of Maryland and suing the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but their interests may be the same as ours. I will evaluate that and report back to the board next month as to what our options are. The governor has threatened that lawsuit. He has not filed it yet, but his goal is the same as ours, without scapegoating the farmers, to make Pennsylvania take more seriously its obligations under the federal laws to clean up those streams. So I'll report back on that. Two right-to-know law matters. Maybe a year or two ago, the authority had done a series of right-to-know requests of the Act 47 coordinators and the DCE staff and some of the lawyers that were in that orbit. And the DCED denied us access to those emails that we think would better explain to our customers what was going on in the year before and after we received the uninvited offer from Aqua about how that came about, who was involved, what the motivation was, so on. The DCED claimed that those emails would not be eligible to be disclosed because they alleged they were covered by the attorney-client privilege. We've always believed that they were not covered by that privilege. The Office of Open Record agreed with DCED, not us. The Commonwealth Court agreed with DCED and not us. We filed a petition asking the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to hear the case, and they agreed. So they're going to hear it. It's unusual for the Supreme Court to take a case. There's a very low percentage of cases that are actually accepted for review. But they've agreed to review this one. So we think we'll probably get the opportunity to brief that and argue that before June, and we're hopeful for a quick resolution, and hopefully we'll be able to see those emails in the very near future, which will give us a better understanding of why we're being pursued, but more specifically, who has been pursuing us, who was at those meetings, who set the strategy out, who was involved. And then finally, we made a right-to-know request back during the litigation of the city of Chester to be allowed to not copy, but just review their home rule charter and their ordinances. They did not respond to our request. Their lack of response was appealed to the Office of Open Records. The Office of Open Records ordered them to respond. They still have not. We were then advised by the office in their decision that our remedy was to file a petition with the Delaware County Court because they had found that the city acted in bad faith in that regard and should have let us read the ordinances that the city had passed. So that is pending in the Delaware County Court. I have no action items today. Those are that's my report for today.
Thank you. Any questions for the solicitor? We'll move on to the Director of Engineering's report. Item A, any questions on item A? Received and filed. May I have a motion for approval of items B, C, D, and E, please? And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the Director of Engineering? Seeing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Andriole?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Langsell?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes.
Thank you. You have in front of you the Director of Human Resource report on personnel. Any questions or comments? Received and filed. Thank you, Michael. The Executive Manager's report. I guess your ethics statements are in there to be filed by May 1st? Sandy? May
Yes.
1st, right? Yes, May 1st. There is a request to approve annual payment to the Water Research Foundation and a request to approve a consulting agreement. May I have a motion for those two items, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Judge? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Andriole?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Langsell?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West?
Yes.
Mr. McGinn?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
No
Mr. Judge, do you have
additional,
any
no
further?
additional information.
Okay, thank you very much. You have in your packet the posting for regular meeting dates. Are there any other board matters that anyone would like to discuss before we go to public comment? Any old business or new business, Mr. Judge? Anyone?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you so much. And is there any public comment?
I missed last month's meeting, but listening to Mr. McGuinn's pleas at all the meetings, it dawned on me 2 days ago that perhaps we could have a Save Chester Water Authority Day of Action on May 5th at the polling places. That would just meet a table, a poster, perhaps we could borrow the neon shirts, bring them back for the day. 8 hour, like an 8-hour shift or something, so we could do 3 or 4 hours. One person, it's so easy to engage people at the polls, I find, at least out in southern Chester County. And we could have a half sheet piece of paper, 3 bullet points why, and then this is their action on the other side. Certainly when I was in Lower Oxford Township, there were people that were working for the parties at the poll last time, and the topic became Chester Water, and I'm telling you, they were like all over it. So I know those employees that were out there would definitely have stood there all day and talked to everybody that walked by. I don't know how many polling places there are. Obviously, it would have to be all of them. You'd have to, have a map that would follow the line. To have a map on every table is very helpful when you're pointing out, where do you live? Do you have Chester Water? It's so easy to engage, but I thought that might be an outreach that somehow we could brainstorm, and it wouldn't take that much to do.
Well, we thank you for that. If you could leave your name and contact information, we will certainly discuss that as an option and with council to see if that's something we can do. But please don't forget to give us your contact information. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Steve Allen from London Grove Township. In December, I asked about the vacancy. Any word on this for Chester County?
I have not heard anything from Chester County in terms of appointing the vacancy.
Have you contacted Chester County?
I don't know. I have not. I don't know if anyone else at the table has, but.
Because I have,
Okay.
and so this is the latest. So, as a gentleman spoke to me today, said that they're going to public media and asking for resumes for new people. They were using the original list, but they decided because of the new commissioners, they're going to go and re-announce it. So they have to be in. It closes February 24th, and the process is commissioners review the applicants individually and decide within the executive meeting if they have similarities or consistencies with one person or two and make a decision. So what's the importance of having a vacancy in a sense, when you vote for something? And it's been, I guess, how long, November?
It's been a while.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I made a phone call and that's all it took. So I don't know, it could change, but I mean, it was very simple. So, and from the last meeting, and when I expressed my interest and concerns of being part of this, if you want to call it a movement or make people aware of things, I heard from people in front of me here saying they were good ideas. Well, we need to take the good ideas to another level and just saying they were good ideas. And we were talking about coming up with something that would be able to, for each one of us to go out with the same message and deliver that to the people in our area. Where are we with that? Or is it something we still have to table or put on the agenda?
Well, it's not an agenda item per se, but it's something that we're talking about to come up with a viable plan, and that has not happened as of yet. So, I mean, there is discussion going on as to what the right way of doing that.
So my point as a ratepayer, or however we want to classify us as living in a place that we're paying for water from Chester Water Authority, is we need to get, the longer we wait, the longer it goes, the slimmer the chances are that we have to be able to speak to anybody and tell them what's going on. Because people do not know what we're talking about in this room or the information that's out there in public media. So is there a plan, or can we come up with a plan?
Why don't we,
Paul?
Paul?
go ahead.
Cindy, I've told Mr. Annan several times that I don't feel comfortable talking in front of the representative from Aqua here, so I would recommend that you not talk in front of the representative from Aqua. I've offered to talk to him after the meeting. I make that offer again, and I'm happy to answer those questions directly one-on-one. But I don't think it serves our interests to discuss our litigation plans publicly. I understand our obligations under the Sunshine Act and the law, but we're not voting on anything, so we really have nothing to say here. But there is a plan. We've been working it for 2.5 years. It's working out so far. There are things that happen on a regular basis. For instance, the Speaker of the House, according to the Inquirer, was scheduled to say that he's not going to run for re-election and announce that he was accepting a job with, guess who?
Yep.
People's Natural Gas, that was now part of the Aqua Group, which they call themselves Essential now. So, that's what we're up against, that kind of stuff. And we're just not going to talk about that publicly.
And I'll accept that, but I will not accept as, I'm one that likes to speak my own word, and I like the integrity of what I stand here for. You approached me last month and
Yes.
said someone was going to call me. And the month has gone by, I had heard nothing. So, speaking to you would be great, but taking action would be even greater.
So are you asking me to tell you publicly what I'm going to talk to you about after the meeting?
I'm just asking you to do what you told me you're going to do.
I have done that.
No, you've never contacted me since the last meeting.
I never said I was
You
going to
said there was a young
contact.
lady going to do it, so.
I think the conversation is probably
Okay.
two different.
Okay, well, I'm just saying,
So as far as what I hear you saying is that you're a person that has an interest in the issues that are related to CWA.
absolutely.
As a person that has an interest, you're also a person that is interested in being informed.
I want to be active
So
in
you can
this.
share that information with your neighbors and other people that we have
Absolutely.
questions about. I've had several people say the same thing. What I would suggest is that maybe and I'll volunteer myself as a board member to discuss it with somebody that's in-house on how we might be able to do that and keep our scouts informed of what's going on and where we're at, not necessarily talking about the litigation,
No,
but talking about where we're at, and things that we can do as far as what we're up against and issues.
that's all I'm asking. I mean, I don't think it's, something that's unreal, unrealistic in a sense.
No.
I'm asking for something that when you do something as a board and the people in front of you, you do it on a monthly basis. I feel something like that would be more than adequate of getting this information to the people in a regular basis, whether it's monthly or every other month or something, but when you have no information, that's no good. So I think we need to find a means that will serve a good purpose to the ratepayers or the people that are involved in this. And as big as it is, we surely don't want to bring this to their attention when it's already said and done. That happens more so than it should, in the sense of saying, well, I didn't know anything about this.
Point well taken. I agree with you.
So-
I am bombarded with questions myself as far as what's going on and what's happening. And, not able to talk about what's happening as far as the litigation is concerned, but there's other conversations that we could have with our people that are willing to pass on this information to their neighbors. So,
And I think it's
Madam Chair,
important.
if you think that that's appropriate,
I
that we
think-
could explore that?
I think absolutely, and thank you for volunteering to be a liaison with members of the staff. And please avail yourself of Mr. Catania.
Absolutely.
We would appreciate that, and to discuss those more specific things. Mr. Andrew?
Yeah, just a point of information. I'm very grateful for the new information that you bring regarding the deadline for the new applicants, for the board members, for the new commissioners from Chester County for February 24. I'm grateful of that, and the reason, before their last meeting on the 11th or 12th of December, I asked your question of our county.
Where at?
And
At the
I was
Sunshine
told
meeting?
Before their last meeting,
Okay,
And was told that, part of what you just said, that they were not going to appoint, and they were going to allow the new commissioners to appoint. So that's very similar to what you just said. It rolled into this year.
well,
The
I
fact of
plan
the
on
matter
making-
was, though, when their meeting came, they appointed 19 people to 10 authority boards and commissions.
Well, you know, like everything else,
So your
it's one thing
information
to
is
say
all very
things,
welcome.
but if I can, and I plan on doing it, if I can attend a Sunshine meeting, it's a public meeting and it's videotaped, so I'll be on a videotape when I say this and bring it up. So the more you put something in place and the more you put that someone has passed this on from the commissioner's office, they're held to it, I believe. They
Oh,
should.
yeah.
So on the 28th, there's a meeting. And the last time I was there, it was videotaped. And public comments like we're doing here now, hopefully, you know, they'll do the same thing. If I can attend, that's what I plan on doing. Just one point of interest that I'm still, I listen and I'm not sure where it's going, but this, you know, the water going into the rivers and different things that are contaminated or something. I don't know how this plays into how Chester Water Authority maintains the clean water and different things, but that in itself in Chester County and other places, the water flows into these rivers, into these different places, and there's contamination from farms, horses, and different things, and you know, and then they have to isolate it. Is it coming in? Is it already in? And is it going somewhere else because of where it's coming from? So I would think, I would hope, that the townships that are leaving or coming from the water that's going into Susquehanna or going in the Octorara Reservoir, that somebody has control over that. Chester County should, and in my conversations when I found that London Grove Township, they, you know, that is a problem, but they say because it's, they're monitoring it and it's coming into London Grove Township, it's someone else's problem. And as a matter of fact, it's the county's problem. It's not the township's problem. So it's interesting how it gets passed around, but you know, everything in itself is all relative to the Chester Water Authority because it's the water we're drinking and it should be clean. And it should be not with contaminants.
We make every effort to make sure that that doesn't happen, and we're providing clean drinking water every day. And
Yeah.
that has been the main goal of Chester Water,
Yeah,
and to serve the residents and the ratepayers. So that is our goal, regardless of who's contaminating what. It still gets clean by the time it gets out.
all I want to do is be active in this, what this board does, and get the message out to people and where I live. So without getting information, I feel, you know, when you get to a point you want to give up, I'm coming close. Because I'm not getting anything to do.
Well, we don't want that to happen
So-
at all.
No, but I'm telling you right now, you know, when I come to a couple meetings, you know, the second one, if I come to a third one or something, and we're not doing anything, it doesn't give me that feeling that we're here for a really good purpose and for the people and the residents of these areas that are getting Chester Water Authority. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Fleischman?
Good afternoon, Blair Fleischman. Here in my capacity as Executive Director of SAVE Kennett Square. I attended the hearing in the Delaware County Court last week, the 16th of January. I think it's important for this board to be aware of like my observations or other people's observations, and like your take and how it coincides with the solicitor's report about where things are in the courts. There was one comment that struck me by the judge, the attorney for Aqua, made the comment that this is not truly our fight, and the judge said back, it isn't? And the judge said, it sounds like you are arguing for the city. And I just bring this up because that feels to be my observation also. The other thing that came out in testimony, because there was a financial, not advisor, it was a financial person for the city of Chester who testified about the $250 million purchase price that had been thrown out or is being used for discussions. And he testified to the fact that there was a financial advisor who did recognize the fact that there would be an allocation for all of the ratepayers, not just the City of Chester's ratepayers. So that sort of brings into the fact that there's already consideration that the settlement agreement that the Chester Water Authority had with the City of Chester for the $60 million was a good faith effort that would be consistent with what the city's position is. So that came out in testimony. And then, but yet the solicitor for the City of Chester was still arguing to be able to modify their RFP, to be able to proceed, even though there's this injunction, not for the city to put out RFPs to sell the assets and not for the Chester Water Authority to put their assets in trust. I guess I bring this up to find out if, when I heard the solicitor say that they was, first, back up a step. So when we first got there, mostly all of the attorneys were there to sort of criticize the fact that the court hasn't addressed the trust issue that was put before the court back in March of last year. But then there continues to be all these legal filings to sort of interfere with getting to that point. So now the judge is going to visit this tomorrow morning. The parties couldn't agree to what that would look like in writing, because I gather the city is still looking to move forward with their RFPs, even though this injunction exists. So if I'm mistaken, if this is this board's understanding, I mean, I hope that is clear, because it seemed that there was a good faith effort by the City of Chester and the Chester Water Authority to work to, you know, a year and a half ago in December, and yet there is all this legal activity that you wouldn't know about if you didn't go to court to hear it, witness it, where it kind of is clear to everybody, including the judge, who says, sounds like you, Aqua, are fighting for, this case for the city or you, which, is it one and the same or isn't it? It doesn't seem that the city stands to benefit from all of the legal activity. It seems like there could be this good faith effort that could get things on a better track. So I just offer that as an observation. I'm not looking for a response. I guess I would say, do you know the case before the judge tomorrow morning at 8:30 is open to the public? Is it also in the ordinance court or otherwise?
I defer that to Mr. Schmidt.
It is, all proceedings are open. The only time they're not open is when the judge goes back in conference and in his chambers.
Okay.
You keep saying most of all the lawyers, there were 17 lawyers there.
Right.
I think it was one less that was there when some of the board members were last in the court. You are correct, and we make an effort to post the transcript of these hearings so that people can go, and I know it's a lot of work, they can go and read the transcript and see, who's making what arguments. And that was not the first hearing where it was clear that the Aqua lawyers were arguing the city's position.
Right.
Not the first time. But that was definitely evident the last time that the judge pointed that out. So tomorrow is not really a hearing to introduce evidence. It's just a status report to the judge. Here's what we agreed on. Here's what we don't. Can you help us resolve this? And he's given us 30 minutes for that. He's got another trial at 9 o'clock tomorrow. So I'm hopeful that it can get resolved. The basic outline of what was agreed to in court was this authority has consistently asked the court to resolve initially the issue of whether or not the authority could put its generation, storage, and transmission assets into the trust and then enter into an agreement with the Chester Water Authority, which would continue as an operating entity. That's all we asked. Let us move those 3 sets of assets into a trust. The Chester Water Authority would continue with the money, with the workers, with everything else, and the customers. And they would just lease those assets from the trust. That would give the ratepayers the protection of preserving those assets, the water rights, and those things, for the term of the trust. That's all we asked back in March of 2019, and we wanted that issue resolved first, because how can you go out for an RFP on something that, you know, you may not have any ability to sell? So, but the city's attorney has consistently articulated that that is the city's goal. And in August of 2019, the city acted in an attempt to keep the authority from not borrowing, to not undertake projects, to basically just try to kind of put handcuffs on the operation here. The judge overruled that, but that's on appeal now. The judge said that there was an injunction that said that you shouldn't have done that, but the city passed the ordinance anyway, or resolution, and the judge later ruled that that should not have happened. So, but you know, our goal in trying to resolve this, we don't think it's good for the authority or its ratepayers to allow the city to go out for RFPs, but we think it's better for the authority if we're now allowed to go forward with the initial request that we've asked, to focus on that, and the court said, if you guys can work this out, then we'll be free to resolve the issue of whether or not we can transfer it to the trust right away. So we thought that that was a higher goal, and we really tried to work this out. You'll hear more about the specific issue that prevents that from going forward tomorrow.
Okay, but I guess based on what you're saying, it just seems to me, as an observer, it feels disingenuous to suggest that the intent is to address the city's financial obligations or debt when really the same amount of money was on the table to be able to achieve that goal to help the city so that the city and the Chester Water Authority can move forward in harmony.
I agree with you.
Okay, and that came out in the court case, in the testimony, when the...
There is a lot that you would learn if you go to all those proceedings. I know that people don't have time to. I applaud you for your interest, and you're communicating that back to, you know, the constituents that you're involved with. That's absolutely correct. That was this board's goal when it made the settlement offer in January 2019, and as difficult as it is, that offer is still on the table. It hasn't been taken off the table. That offer still exists. The city can accept that. They're welcome to continue the dialogue with us, but none of that's happened despite of our repeated efforts.
It's just disturbing to me as a resident taxpayer of the state.
It should be.
Yeah, thank you.
Excuse me, please.
Sorry.
Blair, I have a question. Reflecting on your introductory remarks and reflecting on the solicitor's thoughts, and having heard a lot of renditions of what is supposed to be going on in those courtrooms over there from some of our employees, from some of our interested ratepayers and citizens, and having remembered once upon a time there was a discussion in the court, nobody could clarify completely what had happened at a meeting in Chester as to what a particular thing either happened or didn't happen. I forget the details. But thinking about all those things, and this is not a facetious question, what's your thoughts about exploring a court TV, like on a television show? So that when everybody walks out of there, it doesn't matter what anybody remembers, we'll be able to tell what was said, what was happened, and those things. That's not I'm not being facetious with that. I'm dead serious. I don't know how you do that.
I relied on
Somebody should do it.
it.
It's done every week.
Oh.
Mr. Solicitor, you have a comment about that question?
I'm trying to think carefully before I answer.
All right. You normally always do.
Let me try to continue that practice. I don't know how that works. I mean, I'm happy to look into it and report back, but I think generally, I'm not sure if it's the judge himself or the president judge or the whole court system. I don't know who has control over that issue. But I know it's up to the judicial branch of government to decide what gets filmed and what does not. For example, the legislature has determined that this meeting can be filmed. Right? Anybody can come and film us as long as they're reasonable and allow us to conduct our business. I don't know the exact rules for court, but I'll find out for you. And I'm happy to call Court TV. Is there a particular commentator from there that you're interested in? Or?
Well, it parallels the thought when 5 people go to a meeting and you talk to 3 of them the next day, you know, you get, well, that's not the meeting that I attended. So, you know, we need to be, because of the seriousness of this matter, and on behalf of the 35,000 people in southern Chester County that depend on us for good water, we need to know. We need to know what was said.
I will find out what the rules are, and I'll find out how Court TV works.
Sorry, I can't help.
Thank you.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, Blair.
Anyone else care to comment?
Hello, my name is Ruth Moten, and I'm here as a ratepayer. I have a question for Mr. Catania. I heard you mention you going to lease the interest from the trust to whom?
Well, if we're allowed, what this board contemplated back in January at a meeting that you attended, I remember, back at that cold rainy day at Newman, right?
Yes.
So the proposed transaction is that the generation where we make the water, right? We process it there. The transmission line and the storage tanks would be transferred legally into a trust. And that would include the land around the reservoir, some of the land, so on. So that would go into a trust, a Chester Water Authority trust, for the benefit of all the ratepayers.
Okay.
They would lease that back to the authority, the Chester Water Authority,
Right.
which would continue to exist. So the authority would lease it back, and frankly, the only payment that they would make would be enough to pay the expenses of the trust. But the authority would continue providing drinking water, and the ratepayers probably wouldn't see any difference in operations. It would just be difference in legal relationships. So that if at some point the Chester Water Authority were to be divided up, changed, merged, or sold, what will be sold would be only the assets in the Chester Water Authority, not the assets in the trust. So that's what we were trying to do. And on March 1st of 2019, we filed a petition in the court, and we said, Judge, here's what we want to do. And what we wanted to do was what I just explained. And we said, may we have your permission to do this? And we want to advise all of these people who are interested in this issue, the DEP, the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, you know, some of our larger customers. We want to let you all know that we have done this and we're asking for this because we believe that it doesn't really impact you. We believe it doesn't hurt you. We believe it helps you. It protects these assets, the water, the land, you know, the transmission and the storage facilities, and keeps them in trust to make sure that they can only be used for the ratepayers.
Okay.
So that's what we had asked the court to give us permission to do. That's what we asked the court after all the other lawsuits got filed to resolve first. Let us know whether or not we can do that. That's what hasn't been resolved yet.
Okay.
That's why we tried to get a settlement last week, you know, by conceding that cities, you want to go after RFPs, we think you're wrong, we think we shouldn't do this, but if you want to do it, we'll compromise. But it didn't work so far.
And then my last question, I don't know if something changed, that I didn't attend a meeting, if there was a court hearing, if there was a vote or anything of that nature. But has anything changed whereas the city of Chester, or a particular one person, the mayor, their guardian of the Act 47, whatever the case may be, do they own Chester Water Authority?
No.
Okay, so the yes, the no is up to the board members, correct?
Well, the Chester Water Authority has always acted with the belief that it owns the Chester Water Authority.
And everything that I have read throughout the beginning
Yes.
of the water company changing names and so forth indicates that that is correct.
And I read in an article that Mr. Ainsworth wrote from the Daily Times that the mayor, he quoted the mayor as saying, the city doesn't know if it owns the Chester Water Authority.
Okay, but outside of that, nothing has changed legally.
No court has
That-
made it.
So Chester
Yes.
City does not own
Yes.
Chester Water Authority, correct?
Right. No court has said that, correct.
Thank you.
Who do I have to tell my name to?
Say that.
Kristen Webb, live right here in Concord Township. First of all, let me just thank everybody, and Mr. Content especially, for explaining why it seems sort of like mum's the word since I talked with you, Mr. Vice President, I believe, and Mr. Content at our Concord Township meeting back, I believe, in July of last year.
Yes.
And then started coming to these monthly meetings, trying to get educated and understand what y'all do on behalf of me as a ratepayer, what this gentleman does on our behalf as the solicitor. And it's a big bunch of studying, I will say that. And I spent a lot of time reading all of the wonderful information, and I thank you, sir, for posting it on or getting it to your website that you all posted on. It is a lot of stuff to read, it's a lot of stuff to understand, comprehend. I don't want to misquote anything that I've read. I appreciate the clarity that you just gave to Ruth, because I think that speaks to those of us that are here that wish to be involved in making sure that our ratepayer desires are promoted, protected, whatever you want to say to that. My takeaway from what you said, sir, and I think Mr. McGinn mentioned also, we got to keep our powder dry, and loose lips sink ships. Okay, I was a Navy wife for 30 years, just got our little naval aviator back after 10 months on a deployment to the Middle East, so I appreciate what you're saying. And if we have an aqua person in our midst, I'd like to say they better watch out, because we are getting our act together. And, you know, they may have the big bucks, but I got to tell you, I got a bigger person on my side than I think they do. Because we're looking for transparency, we're looking to protect a natural resource that we all have a right to. That word is loosely used politically now, that we all have rights, and a lot of that really falls under entitlement. And I want to be clear about using those words because I do see water as a natural resource. I am astounded that my neighbors have such apathy about this issue. So I'm trying to stay away from the financial argument that is a good one, because I think maybe their pockets are a little too padded right now from a good, good current events with where, we're not losing money on our investments. But what about their pets, their livestock, and eventually having water in their faucet? And so I really want to thank you all, because I learned more today than I have at the last 4 meetings I've attended. I'm going to go do a little more reading about the Sunshine Act, because my friend Steve said that, and I'm not as well versed as I'd like to be. And I'd like to be better informed. I don't want to be passing out more information. But it seemed like it was a little hard to discern what the word, what is it that you all do here for us. And I think I'm beginning to get a better understanding of that. And I think if the takeaway is the reticence to discuss what I think most of the ratepayers are here for is because we need to keep our powder dry and not lose lips.
Back a year or two ago, Mr. McGinn used to travel to these meetings with a big picture of an iceberg. And he would remind us, here's what we see, here's what's really going on. I'm going to have to find that for him again and see if we can locate it and give it back to him, because that's what this is about. We see on a regular basis 1/9, I think it is, of what's really going on, sure.
So that bottom half of the iceberg, or that lower 9/10 of the iceberg, is that information that as a ratepayer we should do our due diligence and our research to try to understand, or is that going to undermine what we're trying to do as our solicitor?
The effort that I'm not telling Mr. Allen about in public is ongoing and is designed to lower the water line, so you see hopefully all of it.
Understood.
In the past 2 years, it's been frustrating because myself and the team at Chester Water that posts those things realize that we're just assigning homework. I mean, if you look at the transcript, it's 100 pages, it's an enormous number of pages. There are, kernels of eureka moments within it, but you got to go read it and look through it. We're trying to get help from people that will synthesize that and do it. And we're trying to be mindful of operating within a budget, because the legal fight alone is just, it's just unbelievable,
Appreciate
And we posted that counter on the website, just
Yes.
to let people know what you're saving. You know, because the attack on us is going to be, I can't believe what you're paying in expenses to fight this fight. We're paying, 2% of what we're saving the customers. So we'll keep at it. This information will come out, but I have to measure it, how it comes out, when, so on.
And I can appreciate that, because you've done an excellent job on the last 2 postings. Those little nuggets are there, and thank you for bolding them. That helps those of us that are over 60 read them, and trying to understand all the legalese, because it's very difficult as a
Yes.
layperson. Whereas for this, I do better reading the scripture in Old King James than I do that, I'll tell you. So, thank you. Thank you all, and I really appreciate the folks that came out today, because if you're interested in being part of this informative team, let's all meet at that table back there, exchange our information, and, we'll keep passing the information around. And if the 2 gentlemen that approached me at the Concord Township meeting have any kind of an email that you can appropriately just send out a bulletin or a blurb or something that says, okay, we're having this meeting at this courthouse, please come and listen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Peggy Ann Russell, Oxford Borough. First of all, I want to thank Blair for her comment that opened up a great presentation by the attorney. And secondly, I just want to thank each of you for understanding the frustration and the fears of the ratepayers and the employees, the fine people that we call neighbors. And I want to thank you for all the work that you do behind the scenes that you can't talk about, that makes it so frustrating for those of us on this side. And I do know that you share that same frustration sitting there wanting to say more and knowing that you can't say more. So I just want you to know that we do appreciate that. And when I purchased a water catchment system in Haiti for 3 families to share for Christmas, and instead of offering Christmas gifts to my friends and neighbors, when I sent that in, I did include the CWA, that was done in honor of all of you. Because to think that 3 families have to depend upon rainwater coming into a catchment system so that they don't have to walk for miles to gather water. And now they're even being educated in how to have little gardens, because they now have enough water to water those little gardens and have fresh vegetables. In addition, the young girls who were carrying that water back and forth can now spend time being educated. And in addition, their little bodies develop better because they're not carrying that weight. So they don't die in childbirth because their pelvic bones have not matured properly. So we do know what a gift this water is. We do know how important it is. And I agree, we are in this for the long fight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir?
John Wardorf, Wynn, Pennsylvania. Like Mr. Catania said, last week there was a meeting at the courthouse then in media. I was there, and I, like Ms. Fleischman, heard your testimony. And what I'd just like to say is that we're proud that the board has stuck with the ratepayers. We're trying to get the word out to a lot of people, but what I was really surprised about, let me just start with, I got my Chester water bill last week, and it looks like this. Is that what everybody should receive? Because in talking with some of the people in the room, they said that they only got a postcard. But then along with this, I got this here, which is old news, I think. Because this says $90 million, but I said, wait a minute, I was at another meeting and it was $100 million. So where is the disconnect here? And like Mr. Annan and the rest were saying, we should use the opportunity, if people are getting their bills like this, and incorporate something like this. Get this message out to the people and saying, this is also what your Chester Water Authority Board is doing for you. Be advised, and our meetings are held at the Concord Township Municipal Building in Delaware County at 2 o'clock on this date. So I just wanted to say that, and then also, I'm sure those people who, like myself, don't read the sports page. I can't tell you about the sports page. I like reading what's happening in the real world. You see what Aqua has been doing. It started out as Philadelphia Suburban Water. What do? Then they acquired a lot of other municipal authorities, not only in Pennsylvania, but all over, including Texas and most recently Virginia, under the auspices of Christopher Franklin and his predecessor. We call him St. Nick de Benedictus. And now they're getting into gas and other sewage treatment services. So we're, let the big guy, he wants to get big, but leave us alone. Because our authority has been proficient in saving ratepayers money. Our water quality is perfect, as noted in the brochures here and other. And I just want to be sure that everybody is aware that you buy a car for $30,000. And then it's an older car. It was a '64 Mustang. And as time goes on, you've kept that car in good shape because you wanted to keep it in the family for your grandson, your granddaughter, or whatever. Somebody offers you $10,000 for it. Are you going to sell it? No. We don't want to sell. I mean, is Christopher Franklin going to pay us $1.2 billion for this company? Then all the ratepayers would get a nice dividend, correct? I think Mr. Catania can attest to this, I'm sure.
Well, one of the things that some people have asked about is why can't this be turned into a cooperative?
Yes.
And that would be something that's owned by the ratepayers.
Okay.
That would be a question to present to the judge. It's taken us so long just to get our trust issue resolved that we haven't gotten to that next level yet. But I think once we get the trust issue resolved, then we can address that issue. But the model that other states allow are what's called cooperatives, where the ratepayers have the right to recognize that they own the authority, and they may be able to share in some kind of a dividends. But if it ever got sold, they would get the money, not any of the incorporated municipalities. It's similar to what Delcora is doing, right. but there's a limit to what Delcora is doing. Delcora apparently negotiated with Aqua, came up with a number, and Aqua said, we'll put that money into a trust. None of the money goes back to Delaware County that incorporated Delcora. None of it. It all goes into a trust. So Aqua pays money into a trust, and the trust is used to lower the rates of the Delcora customers over time. Eventually, they're going to pay you higher rates, but over time, it's going to be a smoother rise, and all of the money that would have gone to Delaware County that incorporated them is used to invest in the system and to smooth out the increase.
Yes.
So that's a different model, than the cooperative model. But those two models are being used more and more. And frankly, Aqua spearheaded that. They realized that, we have made an issue of, wait a minute, all the money to purchase the Chester Water Authority is going to come from higher rates charged to the customers anyway. So why don't you just leave the money in their pockets? Don't take it out and then charge them higher rates later. Just let them have it. So what Delcora is sold for, is simply the Aqua folks putting money in trust to help the Delcora customers on a slower and more even basis come up to pay what other Aqua customers are paying now for sewage treatment. It's a whole different model. It's a game changer, really, because the idea is no money goes back to the incorporated municipality. They basically, through their actions, I believe, I argue, that Delcora and Aqua both have recognized what this board has said, and that is the assets of the authority belong to the ratepayers, period.
Very good.
Thank you for sitting through 5 or 6 hours of court.
Yes.
Best that we can.
And we can further discuss, like Mr.
Absolutely.
Adam and anybody else anytime, because we are concerned about our water system.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, everybody that's here. I appreciate the chance to speak. My name is Catherine Grodsky. I am simply a ratepayer from Aston, PA. I've been involved in this since 2017, and the Daily Times put me down after the first meeting in the sunny day at Newman College because I was the only one that spoke up. Although the Chester Water Authority fellas, God rest your souls, were like, thanks for championing for us. I truly was not. I was championing for the Delaware County residents and now Chester County residents. Because what's going to happen, as the solicitor has said, the rates are going to go up. And here's my concern, okay? You went in court and you're bringing up now that you're going for home rule. Now you're going to do it? We're not in Act 43. This should have been brought up before you went in court the first time. Because we all know Delaware County is part of home rule, as is the city of Chester. And we should see where those funds went to and why they're not there and now why they have to, and everybody thinks we have all this time to take to get this done. Oh, we're going to drag out through court. Oh, I assure you all, they will not. There's a compliance going on with Philadelphia Water, and they also have to go with that. So here's the thing. Aqua is ready for a monopoly, and I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Katana, about this what is it, trust? Who's going to oversee that trust? Who's in charge of that? Oh, all these people here?
3 trustees under the supervision.
So it would go under the same ones under home rule of Delaware
Can I finish
County?
my answer?
Yes.
3 of the board members here, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Andy Drill, and Ms. Lightsall, under the review of the Orphans Court of Delaware County.
Okay, so it's going to go under the same people over on Delaware County board there?
No, the Orphans Court judge. Currently, it's Judge Baker.
Okay, so now they're going to...
I'm sorry, Judge, no, Catherine. Oh.
It's Catherine Lieber?
No. She's the lawyer.
She's the lawyer, right?
Doral, thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Okay, so she's going to spearhead this trust group?
No, if we're allowed to transfer the transmission, generation, and storage assets into the trust, trustees would be the legal owners of that. What they're allowed to do and not do is set forth in the trust document. And their conduct and their activities would be overseen by the Orphans Court judge. They would file reports with the judge probably yearly.
Okay, pertaining to the assets that are left there in Chester?
No, the assets that go into the trust, yeah.
Okay, that remain, and those
I wasn't
assets...
sure what you said about home rule.
Home rule, yeah, home rule is a little bit about certain laws that are different from the Act 47.
Right, so
Correct?
Delaware County is a home rule county.
That's
right?
correct.
And the city of Chester is a home rule
City.
city.
Correct.
So the only time I mentioned home rule was I asked, I mentioned our right to know cases.
Correct.
And we had asked to go and read the city's home rule charter.
Exactly.
Right.
And
They-
you were denied, although it was
Yes.
supposed to be public knowledge.
Yes.
Again, we're at a conundrum here, because what I don't get at is this Chester Water Authority does not belong to Chester. So now you have to question yourself, why are we going through all this and Aqua is able to take them over? And another thing that worries me is, why are they able to do that? And the benefits monetarily are for Chester with the police pension and everything else that's in disarray. Chester is in disarray, period. So now I have to wonder, where did all these funds go ahead of time before we got to the place? It's home rule, remember? So now we got Aqua here that just passed Delcora. So that's the gray water going out of my house. So now this Aqua is going to be in charge of the gray water going out of my house. But the solicitor has explained to us that it's going to be a slow pace increase because it's going into a trust. Over how many years are we talking? For all the families of Delaware County, let's think of Delaware County and now part of Chester County.
I think Delcor serves the whole county, but I think there might be parts of it that it doesn't.
Right, like by the
But the purpose, the stated purpose of the Delcor Trust is no money goes back to the people that incorporated Delcor, which was Delaware County Council. So they don't get any money at all. Aqua transfers money and puts it into a trust that Aqua, if they take
that
over.
Delaware County oversees.
Well, I don't think so. No. I don't. I mean, I'm.
Some of them are on the board.
No. This is the Chester Water Authority here.
Oh, okay.
The trust that Delcor contemplated setting up, I think the county council approved that. I think it's like a private financial company that's the trustee, but I'm not positive. You can ask them. But that's a public thing too. That is overseen by the Orphans Court. Anybody that has a question about that can file something with the Orphans Court and ask for that to be reviewed. That's more transparent than a lot of other parts of the.
So what I'm thinking here is that they're making everything so difficult and it's becoming so convoluted. But the only thing I can see at the very end is a monopoly.
That's at the beginning, the middle, and the end. Right.
But, I mean, they now have Delcor, which is our gray water going out of our home. Okay? They're going for the water out, and what was it, a month or a couple months ago, guys? Didn't you guys go for the natural gas too? You're going for gas too, right? Yeah. Okay. So you're going for the gray water, you're going for the incoming water, and you're going for our gas. So now, once you get them all, at that
we're
point,
not Aqua is.
right, but where is the Aqua fellas? Raise your hand. That's what you said? Aqua said you and only you? Why are we even here? They're laughing too. They know this is hysterical. I hope this is entertaining to you all.
And I don't think it's fair to refer to him as Aqua.
Okay, I understand that, but with the.
No, it's called Essential.
Yeah,
Right.
this is like essential at this point. You're talking about a monopoly, you're talking about all of our utilities, literally. And once they get them,
Lock and load, baby.
what you said, I didn't hear you.
It's not for public decision.
Lock and load was right. So what I'm here to say is, first of all, Mr. Buchanan, I know I'm not your favorite person in Delaware County, but why didn't you bring up, yeah, he's going to keep back to himself. Why did you go for home rule in the first place when you went up to court? And I had to work that way, but I got in late just to see as everybody was
I'm not sure that I understand what your question is.
I'm wondering why you didn't check into that then. Why are you being holding back now? Well, I'm going to look into the emails now, but now they're out, not public. What about the expenditures? Like you're saying, I'm going to go after the home rule. I want to check the emails. Now, then you said, and with home rule, I want to go into it further with the expenditures. Absolutely. That's what I want to know. What? And I see your red face right now. What were Chester's expenditures that put us, and when I say us, Chester County and Delaware County, right here?
I don't represent them.
I just,
know.
but you're Chester Water Authority, don't say you don't understand what's going on. And this whole trust of you, like, you guys want, it's like, I'll sell some of it, but you can't have all of it.
Why do you draw the?
What's going on? It's a negotiation, is it a pact we're missing, or what's going
We're
on?
in litigation now. We have 6 active lawsuits in Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. I'm sorry, 5.
And I agree with you going with the Commonwealth, absolutely, like Maryland, absolutely.
Why would you conclude when I ask a question I don't already know the answer?
Tell us all, what was it? Because you said you were going to do these things, so what is going to be the answer?
Well, the court's got to give us access to those documents, and the answer is going to be what the documents said.
But you said they won't give us access to those
won't.
documents because they're not
Yes.
for the public, but yet they are. So here we are again, back in a circle,
according-
because Chester
according-
Water Authority was supposed to be not owned by, according to what you said to Ruth, not owned
Yes.
by Chester. Yet here we are, how can this be? those documents were supposed to be public. When you asked for them under home rule, they said they were not. How can this be? I feel like there's a mesh going on here. That's what I feel like. And part of it's being sold to a trust, and we're gonna hold on to this much, but we'll let go of that much.
1 second.
I don't understand that. Help me to
There's a
understand.
misunderstanding here. What our trust is, nothing's being sold. It's to protect assets, and I think Mr. Catania has explained that. I'll ask Mr. Catania one more time to
Oh, no,
explain the trust.
no.
Okay.
So the thing is, he wants to protect all that so that you'll still get revenue from that, or that's just, it's gonna be upkept by what? The trust people?
The trust people, there are multiple trusts being involved here. You're talking about the Chorus Trust, which we have no control over whatsoever.
Okay, I'm talking about Chester Water Authority.
Chester Water Authority's trust is being proposed to protect the assets, but then will be, if you listened to Mr. Catania earlier, he explained that those assets will be leased back for minimal charge to the Chester Water Authority, a separate legal entity. And Chester Water Authority will continue its good works of protecting the assets.
And who maintains these?
Chester Water Authority will be maintaining the assets as part of the lease for the trust.
And how is this beneficial? Having this?
Doesn't own it.
Because you won't have to own it? Or the residents don't own it, or what is it? I'm missing. I must be brain dead.
I can see that you're missing, and I'm glad to answer.
I think that we've explored this, you'll forgive me, we've explored it.
Why would you put that? I
He's
know
already
you're saying
gone, he's
to
already
go
gone through this.
Easy. So it's an easy incline?
Now, the easy incline that you're speaking of has to do with the Alcora, not us.
Yeah, this is.
So this is a whole other thing, and we thank you for your comments. We're gonna have to
But
cut you
Chester
off
Water,
this
you said would help to do the same result, right?
No.
No, I'm going to, we're gonna stop the comments right now. But thank you very much for your time. May I have seeing no other, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?